What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Word on Woodward. I'm Daniela Bruce alongside Art Regner and Carly Johnston, as always, and we've got a lot of great guests for you on today's show. Dan Dickerson, Ken Kale, we've got Jimmy Howard, we have got, hey, they brought in Art. There's Art, the star of the show. I'll tell you about
Hi.
all our guests in a minute, but we got to
Oh
welcome in
yeah.
Art Regner, the real star.
Oh yeah, sure. Looks like the cats are trying to get
You
in
are.
too. The back door there is cracked open. So, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Hair looks great, by the
We've
way.
got Craig Monroe and Craig Button as well today. Two Craigs. It must be like the day of the Craigs. I just realized that when I was listing off all of our guests that we have on today's show. So it's going to be a fun one.
My middle name is Craig, by the way.
Is that true? I think you're Arthur J. I'm not sure exactly what it
Yeah,
is, but
it's not. If you hear a cat in the, but just for today's show, I'm an honorary Craig.
or we could just say the J is silent, but it is actually Craig.
That's that's right. Sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna go with that, Daniela. You're on fire today.
I know. Look at that, and we're only like 2 minutes in. We've got a whole 2 hours to go. Let's get
Uh-oh.
into our big three for today, everybody. The big three presented by our friends at Chevrolet. Now, the first one that we're going to talk about, Art, is a little update on the NHL return to play. And the Athletics' Pierre LeBrun did an interview with the Deputy Commissioner of the NHL, Bill Daly. And really, what we got out of this is the whole return to play is still a very fluid situation. A lot of things are still on the table, but it does seem like the NHL is working very diligently to bring back the season.
Yeah, certainly. I think Bill Daly. I think the biggest news that came out of the athletic interview with Pierre LeBrun was the fact is that I think Bill Daly was hoping last Friday. He's hoping maybe this Friday, but it appears sometime next week they're going to make a decision on the draft and whether they're going to have it in June or not. I know that there's reports circulating. I know TSN and the Score in Canada have said that the prospects themselves, the young men that are eligible for this year's draft, would like to be drafted in June just so there's no uncertainty and they know where their teams are and they can start to get acclimated themselves. I'm not so sure what's going to happen because when this originally was proposed, I think, again, Bill Daly was really hopeful that we would have had a decision by now. It looks like it's going to be made next week. And another interesting thing, too, is Commissioner Gary Bettman yesterday in the San Jose Sharks business meeting with their business partners and season ticket holders, according to the San Jose Mercury News, in a virtual town hall meeting, Gary Bettman said that he's hopeful with the way the recent news has gone that something is going to happen that they're going to be able to play the regular season. He wants to play the regular season. It's like we've talked about a couple of weeks ago that, he definitely wants to play the regular season for the integrity of the league. Get as much integrity as you can for this playoff system because we know everything's probably not going to be, like it was obviously before the pause. But I thought that was interesting. And he says, it would be easy just to cancel the season. That would be the easy thing. And, ABC as easy as 1, 2, 3, season magically vanishes. I actually don't disagree that I guess would be the easy thing to do or the easy way out. But I think in this time, there's no easy decisions being made right now. Every decision is measured and it's measured based on what we know. Unfortunately, Daniela, as you said, this is a fluid situation. So things seem to change, every second. So I think this is really, really difficult. I think they're doing their due diligence. It would be great if the Red Wings could come back. I think it'd be great, if they make a decision on the draft. I think it's not everybody misses sports, but I think what everybody is really kind of, how shall I say it? The uncertainty kind of puts everybody on edge. If you know a draft is coming up, if you know that some training facilities are going to start to open and guys are going to get on the ice, which is really, really important. They need to be on the ice. I think we have a tendency to forget truly because they're so gifted athletes, and when they're out there and you're watching a hockey game, I think at times you almost forget they're skating. I mean, granted, they'd be really fast humans to move at that pace if they were just running around. But it's imperative that they get on the ice as soon as possible. The longer this goes on, the longer they're going to have a training camp, and there will be a training camp. So I think it was encouraging news from Bill Daly and the commissioner, Gary Bettman. I really, really do. I applaud the league for, again, taking their due diligence, but we'll see. Hopefully, we'll have some news soon. I think the draft stuff is gonna break soon. I think the league is really, really pushing for that. From everything I've been able to read and to gather and talk to different people, and it seems that people just want something hockey related right now. And I think maybe the easiest thing to pull off would be a virtual draft, much like the NFL.
Definitely. And this is not a surprise at all, but Bill Daly also said that they are obviously really focused on the testing portion that would have to come into play when they do return to play, and testing being for COVID-19, how they're going to test the players and how they're going to work that whole thing is obviously a really important component to returning to the ice.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you think that's the thing. I mean, this is a pandemic. This is a new virus. No one knows really. There's no vaccine for it yet. I mean, every day, people much, much brighter than me are working their tails off to try to get some answers, figure this out, and find a vaccine, or at least be able to temper it down to a point of where we can start to resume business as normal. And part of that business, obviously, would be sports. So I think you're right. Player safety is imperative. And I really think that before we allow any athletes to, start partaking, because they all want to start playing. Everybody, no one likes to be cooped up, is that once the testing is done, they have a procedure, everyone's healthy. They're going to probably test these guys 2-3 times a week, depending on how our jobs will change at that time. I'm sure that we're probably going to have to get tested if we're going to be around them. I'm eager to see what's going to happen, but I also know that in the end, the number one factor is going to be not only player safety and health, but everyone's safety and health, and that's the way it should be.
Definitely. And as you said, hopefully we have some more information on this in the coming weeks, or maybe by the end of this week even. Let's move on to our second topic of the big three for today. And that are some classic Tigers games on Fox Sports Detroit. I know we've been talking about these for a while, but this week is really exciting with the 2006 games, and we've got some playoff games coming up for you. Tonight is the ALDS Game 2 at the Yankees, and that's in 2006. Art, we have some great interviews coming up today, including Craig Monroe, who we will talk to about all of these games, and his perspective is going to be really cool on it, so you won't want to miss that. But these classic games have been so much fun. So big thank you to FSD for doing that, because as you said, everyone kind of missing sports right now.
Right. I think the thing, and it's interesting, this game too, Jim Leland alluded to it on Tuesday's show. I was in New York at the time for this series. The radio station I was at sent me and my partner, Doug Karsh, and we were broadcasting live from New York. I've told the story on the subway, and no one was giving the Tigers any credit. And I told Doug this is why people hate the Yankees. And Doug thought we were going to get jumped on the subway, but these guys just kind of stared at me. And Detroit has it has its own reputation that sometimes you can capitalize on when you're out of town. Anyway, what happened was that that second game, the Yankees won the first game. I think it was like 8-3. I don't think it was close. And then the second game was rained out. And then the Tigers played an afternoon game the next day. And Leland thought that kind of took New York off their edge. The whole town was thinking we're going to sweep the Tigers and all that. Lo and behold, the Tigers came back and swept them. So this game 2 is a very key game that we're going to watch tonight. And then we get to see game 4. And then we go to the AL Championship Series against the A's. So I really think watching these games really shows you the extraordinary feat that the 2006 Tigers did. I know Jim Leland told us that, hey, we would have liked to cap it off with the World Series. I think the layoff kind of took their edge off because in between the ALDS or the Championship Series and the World Series. But I think to go from 119 losses to the World Series 3 years later is extraordinary. And it's just great to watch these guys because you could sense it. As you're watching these games, they weren't out of any game. They believed in each other. It was a different player every night. So I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, they have been a real lot. They've been a lot of fun, and and watching the 2006 guys, they're almost like the 68 Tigers are to me. I mean, these guys pulled it off, and the World Series would have been nice, but what the heck? I mean, what they did was pretty special.
It was, and I'm looking forward to a weekend of watching all of those games. But let's get to our final topic of the big three for today. And this one, we're going to touch on the NHL Fan Choice Awards. The Red Wings are nominated for a few things, and obviously the fans get to vote in this one. And we've got three categories that the Red Wings are in, and one is Best Player's Dog, which is Tyler Bertuzzi's dog, Aspen. One is Best TikTok, and the last is Best Building. So you got to get on, make sure you're voting for Tyler, the TikTok, and of course, Little Caesars Arena. But Art, on Tuesday, I think it was on Tuesday, you did say that you were going to make a TikTok. Have you any progress in that yet?
I have to go to our social media people, as we said, Andrew Bossman Christoph and Stacy Boss Lady Burlingame, to teach me how to exactly do this. These guys know everything about it. They talked Joe Valeno through it. So, but I will promise I will get on that. I really have been doing some other things, but yes, I will do that. But I want to say I voted. I voted for Tyler's dog. I voted for TikTok. Tic Tac. I keep thinking of those little, breath mints, and of course, a Little Caesars Arena. I voted in all categories. Usually, I wouldn't if it would have counted against the Red Wings. So I voted on the whole thing, and it's pretty extensive, but it's a pretty good list. A lot of fun.
Definitely. And you guys can cast your votes at NHL.com/NHL Fan Choice Award. So make sure you do that. And a big thank you to our friends at Chevy for bringing us the big three today. When our country is faced with adversity, we find a way to get through it. Chevrolet is committed to helping you in any way we can, from answering your vehicle questions related to service and everything in between. Visit ChevyCares.com to learn more. Now let's move on to the mailbag delivered by Little Caesars. And for today's mailbag, we are going to bring in Dan Dickerson, radio voice of the Tigers. Dan is becoming a regular guest on this show. And guess what? I love it. Dan is one of my favorites. And I'm not trying to get myself in the Ken Kale, Dan Dickerson debacle that Art's got himself in right now. But we've got Dan here with us. And Dan, it's so great to have you as always. Looks like we're having a little bit of audio issues with Dan Dickerson there. He's going to be right back. Do you want to let's do this. We'll go to our first question for Art. Okay?
There he is.
Wait, do we got him? There he is.
Sorry about that. I muted the mic while I was in the waiting room.
Hey, that's okay.
Always good to be on with you guys.
The fans are used to that. That's okay. Let's get right into it. Go ahead, Art.
All right.
I just want to say that, we've had a lot of people on and we've seen a lot of great like rooms and backgrounds and stuff, but Double D, yours by far is the best. I don't know if it's it kind of looks like a light pea soup green with the white and the crown molding and the pictures. Looks like a very comfortable room that I know that Double D stretches out on and just enjoys catching a flick, a movie, maybe even eating, a complete Little Caesars pizza or something. But very, very warm, very cozy, Dan.
Thank you. You have my wife to thank, Lori Ann, for that.
Yeah, it's
Lori
beautiful.
Ann did.
Very nice.
And she's, by the way, Daniela, she says hello. Your old professor at Michigan State.
Yes, tell her I said hi. I had LA as a professor for sports journalism at Michigan State. No, she's awesome. She's obviously a great interior designer too. She can do it all.
Exactly.
All right, Dan, let's get to question one. And this one is for you. And it's Pat from Allen Park. And he asked, was there a difference between the Tigers in spring training this year from the previous years?
Yeah, I've told people, and people always talk about how much they look forward to the spring training games, and I kind of smile because I know what they're talking about. It means baseball's back and spring's on the way, but the games themselves can often be just a challenge to figure out because the whole lineup for both teams gets swapped out by mid-game. You're trying to figure out who's in left field right now. Seriously, So the games can be a bit of a struggle, or at least a challenge to figure out who's where, who's on first, go right down the list. So, but this year, I thought it was way different because those guys who usually get swapped out in past years have been, well, for the most part, a lot of non-prospects. This year, the guys who are swapped out, suddenly you're seeing guys who are truly legitimate prospects because of the improvement in the Tigers farm system. So instead of a guy that you're never going to hear from again who might wash out at AA, you're seeing Parker, Cody Clemens, who ended up getting more plate appearances than just about anybody, not on that in-camp roster of 60-plus players. You had Casey Mize. So you had in an 8-1 blowout game, which is a disaster in spring training. Suddenly there's Matt Manning on the mound in an 8-1 game with the Tigers losing, and you're excited because it's one of the big three. And it just changed the feel. There's just no question. It changed the feel for how spring went when you saw these prospects and you saw the athleticism and you saw the talent on the way and you saw, like I said before, Cody Clemens, he's kind of fallen behind in terms of where he ranks on the prospect list, but Ron Gardenhire liked watching him play. So you understood that, okay, if they want him in camp, even though he's over in that minor league camp and has to get an invite over, there's a reason to watch this guy. So I don't know, the whole feel with the talent that's on the way and the talent that we're seeing in games, it just made it for a lot more fun. And every game became interesting right to the final out. And that's unusual.
And Dan, I know we've talked about this before, and it's kind of hard to say now with the season questionable. Everything about it is questionable right now, but it was possible at that moment that we were going to see some of those prospects make their major league appearance.
I thought it was going to be fascinating to watch how they were going to move. And I keep going back to the big three because let's face it, they're all legitimate top 50, if not top 30 prospects in all of baseball. Skubal, Mize, Manning. And they were all going to be at Toledo. And they were all going to push to make the major league. Make the major league roster at some point. We've never had a situation with that kind of talent in all my years of watching the Tigers, and I go back a ways. So it was very exciting to think, okay, you're going to have to probably get creative because you've got Boyd, you've got Norris, you've got Turnbull in the rotation. They were all pretty solidified in that rotation and all still young. So how are you going to make room for these other guys? And I thought it was going to be a case where the Tigers were going to get creative because my feeling was, and I'm sure the feeling among many of the coaches and Ron Gardenhire and his staff and Al Avila and his staff, these guys are going to force their way to the major leagues. And the Tigers believe in, hey, you're not going to just let a guy keep blowing people away at AAA. If he looks like he's ready and has the pitches to get major league hitters out, they're going to promote that guy. And here are the big three right here. And I felt like all three could have been in Detroit by midsummer. And would they use some of them out of the bullpen? Would they piggyback some guys to save innings? That's not going to be an issue anymore in terms of saving innings and worrying about an innings limit. Whatever the season starts, I think it's going to be intriguing that these guys, you might have a couple out of the bullpen going 3 and 4 innings at a time, piggyback starts for guys that you want to get innings. It's not a bad way to break a guy into the major leagues. And that's why I was so intrigued by what they were going to do. And whatever the season is, let's call it an 81-game season, which right now seems to be the plan that's getting the most attention, roughly 80 games, give or take a few. Those guys, again, where they can get their development, continue their development will be a big issue. But those guys could be a big part of this roster by, say, August, if we start in July, and it could be used in different ways than just being a starter. It'll be intriguing, but they can all help, and they'll change the look of this team in a hurry.
With all that being said, I hope that we get to spring training round 2 very soon here and get to see what these guys bring to the table. Art, let's move on to our second question. And I, for one, am very interested to see what your answer is to this one. Which weapon would you rather have, Mantha's shot or Larkin's speed? And that is from Emma and Hamtramck.
Well, that's a tough one. Certainly, Anthony Mantha, Big Tony's shot is one of the best in the league. So it's very tough to not go with the BT Express. But I would have to say Dylan Larkin's speed. Mantha's shot is incredible. The night he scored 4 goals against Dallas, you saw his whole skill set on display there. But you can't beat speed. Dylan, he still holds the record, I believe, for the fastest skater. And, and he's a raw rookie at that point. And, and he kind of slipped a little bit. You talk to him, he was as stunned as anybody that he owns it. And, when Dylan gets going and he gets flying, I can't remember the game offhand, but he went, coast to coast, went through all 5 guys and scored a goal. So, I really think in today's NHL, where it is a speed game, it's a fast game, it seems to be getting, younger every day. I think the median age now for a player is 14 and a half at times, but I think it's speed. I would take Dylan's speed, although it's tough. It's tough not to take Mantha's shot. Although I will say, if I could have a combination of Anthony Mantha and Philip Zadina's shot, then sorry, Dylan, I would not take your speed.
Wow. I am not shocked that your answer was Dylan Larkin, Art, just because I know that he's your guy. That's your guy. I'm not surprised by that answer.
It's his team. As we've said over and over and over again.
So make sure you weigh in.
Eventually that's okay. I was just going to say, eventually that A should be a C, I guess. But Big Tony's right up there too. He is, as I've said, he's one of the most honest athletes you're ever going to meet. I think, when Double D ventures into the Red Wing clubhouse, the Red Wing room, he should be talking to Anthony Mantha is always enlightening because he answers every question. He's really thoughtful about it, and most guys are. But but that way. Anthony Mantha's tip top, and he does have a great shot, but Dylan's speed is electric.
All right, for our third question, we're going to go back to baseball, and this one, of course, is for Dan. Dave from Milford asks, if we need a strikeout, who is Gardy calling from the bullpen?
That's a great question. I'll start with saying this is probably before the 9th inning, because the 9th inning is going to belong to Joey Menez when the season starts. So who else in terms of the setup guys are you going to call on? This is an area that I always start. It's a great question because I judge bullpens by which teams get the swings and misses. It's a game of swings and misses right now. Not just the strikeout rate, but I want to see swings and misses. And to that end, the Tigers were bottom 5 last year in the number of swings and misses they got. That's an area where they need to improve, and they know it. Ron Gardenhire likes the power arms. That's why Jose Cisnero made the team last year and probably would be on that short list. I'd start with Buck Farmer because of his improvements in the last couple of years. He's grown by leaps and bounds. He made big improvements last year, even if it wasn't always reflected in the ERA. This is a guy who bumped up his strikeout rate to over a strikeout an inning. There's another power arm, Gregory Soto. Brian Garcia right here definitely is on that list. He did not have great numbers in his brief call-up last year, but he is somebody to watch. Tyler Alexander is going to work out of the bullpen. He can get swings and misses too. A guy that I think fans should watch is David McKay, a guy picked up basically for nothing from Seattle. 29 strikeouts in 19 innings for David McKay, and it's a reflection of what he did in the minor leagues as well. This is kind of a steal for Al Avila and his staff, but that's a guy who is, even though the ERA was high, I see a strikeout rate like that, it catches your eye. And then the final guy that I would put on that list, just because, he pitched 2 innings this spring, so I'm not going to get carried away, but it's just one of those stories that was so intriguing from spring. Xiaoxing Zhang came over, was signed in the offseason. It was not a signing that got a lot of attention, signed away from Cleveland. Okay numbers. The scouting report was low 90s fastball, didn't pitch for several weeks into the spring training season, and then finally got his shot, and he's throwing 97, 98, and everybody's kind of like, who's this? Where'd this come from? Nobody could quite believe it. And then he did it again. Now, he gave up a couple of runs, but I'm telling you, it was a big power arm that had everybody kind of excited. Was he a long shot to make the team out of spring? Absolutely. Was he somebody to keep an eye on in Toledo? Absolutely. And that's the guy that, who knows, could work his way. If you keep getting outs and you keep getting swings and misses, your number will be called, and it'll be intriguing to see his career path because the numbers in the minor leagues with Cleveland, just okay. But that power arm in camp was a wow.
Dan, I like that answer because you had more than one answer. That's positive for the Tigers. I like that a lot. So now we'll move on to our final.
There's definitely something brewing there.
Definitely. But this question's a little fun, and I want you both to answer this one because I'm kind of curious too. What is the players' food spread like in the clubhouse? And I know, Art, you spent a lot of time in the Red Wings locker room too, so maybe you can go on both of these. Dan, why don't you start?
I just walk by where they eat. You know, we're not allowed to set foot in there, and nor should you. I mean, that's the players, but it's right there, as Art knows, in the clubhouse, and you probably know it too, Danielle. I mean, it's right the place where they eat. One thing that the baseball did. So, my answer would be the food spread is very good, and this is an emphasis from a few years ago in the new collective bargaining agreement. And I know Tony Clark and some of the player reps took heat for it. It's like, hey, you concentrated on things like travel schedules and nutrition for the players instead of maybe monetary issues. But you know what? That was a big deal for players. It's what players wanted to emphasize. I think we're finally understanding, it's taken quite a while, the importance of good nutrition, good sleep, so that you're not getting in at 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning after a night game somewhere and you're traveling to another city. I mean, these things I think we're becoming more aware of, and that's important. So the nutrition has definitely gone up. Every clubhouse is mandated, even when you're on the road, to have a chef that's cooking good meals. And that's a big deal. When you're trying to keep as strong and healthy as possible over a 162 game schedule, which is a long schedule, that's not a small thing. So I think it's definitely been beefed up in recent years. I don't ever sit down and have a bite, but it looks good from from the angle as I walk by.
All right, Art, what do you think?
Well, I just have to say, at Old Tiger Stadium, the food was right there in front of you because the clubhouse was so small. I'm going to say, in the Red Wings' new setup, you need a retina scan to get behind to get back in there. But they have a complete, they have a complete kitchen with a chef. And I do know that it's changed over the years. And the best way I can tell you, it's high nutrition now. The Red Wings all have an energy drink. They do all kinds of things after the game. One thing that they do a lot of that they used to do years ago too, but they all work out right after the game. But I will say, when we used to fly back in the old days, the big thing getting off the plane was everybody couldn't wait for their Dove bar, their big Dove bar. And those were kind of passed out, and everybody wanted their Dove bar, and that doesn't happen anymore. There's no more a big ice cream or Dove bars. None of that. It's all nutrition based. Lisa McDowell, the team nutritionist, does a fabulous and fantastic job. I know it's something that Steve Yzerman believes in greatly. Another side story was. The Red Wing prospect team won the tournament this year up in Traverse City. And, as a special treat, they decided to give them pizza, Little Caesars pizza. And so that was cleared with management, but management made it very clear, no ice cream. So that's the way it changes right now. I mean, it's all great food. It's all great food. Not a whole lot of fried food or anything like that. And I think each player, because they have their own chef, and I think baseball, it seems to be a complete spread. Every time I've looked through the Tiger thing, I kind of pound on the glass sometimes. Please, guys, just throw me a chicken tender, but it doesn't happen. I think the Red Wings can almost request meals, and they like certain things. I know we had Justin Abdicator on, cold pressed juices. I think the guy lives on those, so it's really, really changed. It's gone from normal everyday food that we enjoy to really high-end nutritional stuff, and obviously that's the way it should be. I mean, their bodies are their life, so to speak, and their livelihood. So they eat very, very well, but it's very, very nutritious. Kale and lima beans and stuff like that.
Well, I hope you're keeping that up during quarantine too. So if any of you are watching right now, make sure you're sticking to your diets because we might have to get you back out on the field or the ice pretty soon. And it for our mailbag delivered by Little Caesar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Always a blast having you on the show. And You'll be back soon. I think everybody knows that already.
I love it. I love staying in touch with fans. I love talking sports with you guys, baseball, hockey, whatever it is. So it's a lot of fun. I look forward to being back on next week.
Awesome. Thanks
Thanks,
you, Dan.
Double
Enjoy
D.
your weekend.
Okay, you too.
The mailbag is delivered by our friends at Little Caesars. All this talk about food. Why don't you get yourself a Little Caesars hot and ready pepperoni cheeser? You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. Guys, we've still got a lot coming up on the show today. Ken Kale's going to join us. We've got an interview with former Tiger Craig Monroe and NHL draft analyst Craig Button. But right now, we're going to give it to Carly.
Thanks, Danielle. That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Today, I'm joined by Red Wings goalie Jimmy Howard. Jimmy, how's it going?
Not bad. Thanks for having me, Carly.
Thanks for being on. And I'm sure it must be tough quarantining with 4 young kids, but it must be nice having spent this time with family that you wouldn't have otherwise had without the season pause.
Yeah, it's been a blast just to be around the kids, to watch them grow, play with them every single day, and it's been a real treat. Like, it's been very enjoyable.
So you have 3 boys and 1 girl, that one girl being Olivia. You guys celebrated her second birthday. Yeah, so she totally had you wrapped around her little finger.
She does. I can't say no to her.
You guys have such a beautiful family. I know I saw on Instagram the other day you painting Olivia's nails.
Yeah. Yep. During the quarantine, I had to brush up on my skills. I'd never done it before. So Rachel was teaching me how to do it, just in case down the road she's not around and Olivia wants them done.
I love it. I've seen James and Henry out on the ice before or after practice at Little Caesars Arena. How cool is it that they love hockey just like you?
It's great. I thoroughly enjoy watching him play. When James is ever, his team's playing in like a championship and in a tournament, I think I get more nervous for his games than I do for mine. So it's just a blast to watch them play. James, he's out there. He likes to, stick handle and dish the puck. And Henry's more of the bruiser. He gets his nose in there, gets dirty, and he's not afraid to throw his little body around.
That's awesome to see. And I understand they have a favorite hockey player on the Wings. It's not Dad. Who is it?
No, it's not Dad. It's I think it's every kid in Detroit. Dylan Larkin. They love Dylan.
And I think, don't one of the boys have number 71?
They both wear 71. Last year 2 years ago they both wore 35, and then last year they ditched the 35, and they're both wearing 71 now.
Ouch.
It's all right.
Well, speaking of your kids, what was your childhood like growing up?
Well, I grew up in a small town named Ogdensburg, New York. It's up on the St. Lawrence River. It was a lot of hockey. I loved playing. If I wasn't at the rink, I was playing street hockey, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And so being from a small town, you really had to, as a kid, like with all my buddies, we had to use our imaginations, a lot to, pass the time. So, we were always out playing, riding our bikes, having home run derbies, playing football, in the wintertime and hitting each other into the snowbanks. So, it was a lot of fun, but it was great, that we were able to, use our imaginations, because it definitely helped us, grow.
And you touched on hockey. Speaking of that, you were drafted by the Detroit Red Wings in 2003. What has it been like to play for the same team for your entire career so far?
It's been amazing. It can be tough, this job on families, with guys moving and, switching teams. So to be, for Rachel and I and the kids to be in one spot for as long as we have, it's been, a blessing. The kids are, they're Michiganders. It'll always be home.
That's incredible. And I know a lot of the guys on the team you've played with and known for a while. Are you missing the guys during this time? Do you stay in contact with them during quarantine?
I miss them. I miss all the guys. Obviously, we got group text going and stuff like that. But it's kind of died down here as of late. So hopefully everyone's being safe.
And speaking on the pandemic, it's awesome to see you guys give back during this time. You've purchased tens of thousands of dollars worth of N95 masks to protect healthcare workers at Detroit Medical Center. What made you feel the need to give back during this time?
Well, I think it's important. My family and I were in a great situation where we're able to give back, and through the foundation, and that's why we made it. During tough times to help people out. And, those workers, they're the real heroes. They're putting their lives on the line every single day, going to work to keep people safe. And, I actually followed the lead of Justin and Dylan, so I want to do something unique. And since I wear a mask, it was a no-brainer to do the mask. The only tricky part was finding them, and that took some time, but, we were able to find a spot out of Pennsylvania that had them, and and since they have to be the precise N95 masks, it just took a little bit longer than I think we would have liked.
And I saw you took part in that the Real Heroes Challenge on Instagram for Nurses Day. Who is that you put on the back of your jersey? Was that a friend or a family member?
That is Chelsea Austin is Rachel's cousin.
Well, what have you been doing during this quarantine to stay in shape and stay ready for the season to resume?
Well, I can't wait to get back on the ice and start playing again. But at the same time, I work out every single morning during the week, about around 8 to 9:30, and then start the day. But it's a lot of balance stuff, a lot of core, a lot of hip mobility stuff to keep my flexibility up and my hips moving properly. But it's tough, because we're so used to being so regimented and having I think it's been a little bit difficult, but at the same time it's you got to find a way to just get it in.
Absolutely. And is there a message you'd like to leave with Hockeytown during this time?
Yeah, I just want to say I miss all the fans, miss going out on the ice and playing for, the Red Wings organization and for the fans. And I hope everyone's staying safe and, following the rules, and, we'll get out of this.
Well, Howie, thank you so much for your time. It's been nice catching up. I hope you, Rachel, and the kids stay well during this time.
Thanks, Carly. Be good.
You as well. Thanks for tuning in to Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly. Great to hear from Jimmy Howard. Great things he's doing in the community too. All the mask donations were super helpful, and it's great to see him and the rest of the team kind of giving back during this time. But Carly, you don't go anywhere, because for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel, we're going to keep you in for this one. You and Ken Cal, actually. Let's bring you both in, because I know you guys are doing something really, really fun this weekend. So from here, Carly, I'm going to let you take over, and you guys let everyone know what's going on.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniela. All right, Ken, good to see you as always. So since Ken and I miss live hockey so incredibly much, we decided to go ahead and battle against each other in hockey. But since we're practicing social distancing, we landed on playing a game of Chell, where we were the general managers drafting our teams, but we are also first-line players and broadcasters during intermission, so we're doing it all. We drafted our teams ahead of our game tomorrow, and Ken, unfortunately, won the coin flip. Can you tell them who you drafted first and what your lineup looks like?
Well, I wanted to go for the best player, Carly, and obviously I selected Gordie Howe as my number one pick, and why not? He's Mr. Hockey. I think he's the best player ever to don a Red Wing uniform, so why not go with old number 9? And I also wanted to have the best defenseman. So in the third pick, I picked Nicholas Lidstrom. And then my next pick, I picked goaltender Terry Sawchuk. So how can you lose when you got Howe up front, Lidstrom on the blue line, and Terry Sawchuk back there in goal? One of the all-time greatest, if not the greatest Red Wing goaltender of all time. But then again, I looked at your picks, and you've got an outstanding team. You've got a lot of firepower up front.
I do. So my first draft pick was obviously, of course, I had to go with Steve Yzerman. And then I drafted legend Ted Lindsay and got a current player in Anthony Mantha up front. And then on the blue line, I have Larry Murphy, DK, and Chelly with Vernon in net. And yeah, I have an incredible lineup. I got Bob Probert. I've got some power. But I mean, Ken, you kept stealing every guy I wanted to get every pick before. I was like, okay, this is the guy I'm going to get the next time I come up. Okay, like it's in my mind. And then I'm like, all right, Ken, who's your pick? And he said exactly who I was thinking of every time.
Well, obviously, I think you have an edge when you pick the first, when you have the first pick. So obviously, I was pretty lucky about winning the coin toss. But with that said, I was looking at my lineup, and I've got some pretty balanced players, both alumni and current Red Wings. And, I put my line combinations together, and on my top line, I've got Marcel Dion with Gordie Howe. And I figured I'm going to go up on the top line. Who wouldn't want to play with Howe and Dion? But then I've got some pretty good combinations after that. Larkin with Hull and Shanahan. And I think this line is a really good line. They like to crash the net. Delvecchio with Bertuzzi and Fabry. And, of course, I've got Joe Kocur kind of to keep Bob Probert in check if they're on the ice at the same time. I got Gagne and Timashov. But back there on the blue line, like I said, I've got some good current Red Wings and alumni. Lidstrom and Coffey, Larson, Reed Larson, remember him from the 70s, and Philip Hronek, and also current Red Wing Patrick Nemeth and Mo Sider. I'm going to see what he can do against the big boys on your team. And in goal, I got Terry Sawchuk. My backup is Jonathan Bernier.
For me, since I'm only 5'4" and I don't have a lot of meat on my bones, I got some enforcers on my line. So up on the top line, I have Bob Probert and D-Mac with me, because if anyone's going to give me any crap on the ice, I need someone to back me up. So it was really cool getting on the first line. I love that picture at the bottom of the screen right there, Ken, you and I going up against each other in the face-off. So we both have some incredible lineups. It's going to be an amazing game. But Ken, you're going down, man.
Well, CARLEY, you know what? I respect you and everything, and I know I work with you all the time, but you know what? I've got the best team. I've got the better team, and we're going to go out and we're going to show who's number one out there. And like I said, it's not going to be easy, because I look at your roster. You've got some great players, but when outwill your team and somehow find a way to win the game.
We'll see how it goes. I have a feeling it's going to be a very close game. Hopefully it'll go into overtime. I have a feeling it's going to be that close that we're going to head into overtime. But also we're going to be broadcasting the game as well. So we'll be doing some pre and post and intermission reports, hopefully interviewing the star of the game. So, I mean, again, hopefully that guy is on my team. But we'll see. It'll be a tooth and nail kind of game. Daniela, seeing the lineups, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win? Putting you on the spot here.
Guys.
A lot of fun, I think, for Red Wing fans.
Oh, there he's back. We've got Ken. We've got Ken. But I've seen, both of these lineups. Again, you guys, both of you would be pretty solid GMs, okay? Because these teams are great. But I do have to say, I think Ken's going to have a slight edge in this one. And I really want to ask you, what was it like playing on a line with Gordie Howe?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. And Marcel Dion, and both of those players growing up were one of my all-time favorites. Like, I always liked Gordie Howe, obviously, and I saw him live, believe it or not, late in the career. He played till he was like 60 years old. But I remember him with the Red Wings back in the 60s. And, of course, Marcel Dion had a great career, mostly with the Los Angeles Kings. But he was drafted by Detroit. He went behind Guy Lafleur, second overall in the draft. I believe it was in 1971. And I just wish he could have played his whole career. And he was a crafty center iceman, and he could dangle with the puck. He could score. He could set up people. Not very good defensively. I mean, I'd like to see him work better back in his own end. But, man, a lot of firepower, Marcel Dion. So just to team up with those two players, I'm looking forward to it, really am.
And CARLEY, your team still really, really awesome. And you guys are, like you said, going to be doing it all in this game. You're going to be playing, you drafted, you're going to be broadcasting. This is going to be a really cool event. But why don't you tell everyone when and where can we watch this?
All right, it's tomorrow on Red Wings Facebook and Twitch. So tune in. We'll stream it live, but then we'll also make sure we post it for anyone that misses it. And also, I just want to say, Ken, that's pretty exhausting that we're doing we're doing everything. I mean, every single job involving this game, you and I are doing. So I'm going to have to get a full 13 hours of sleep tonight.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I want you to keep an eye on Bob Probert because I understand he's been saying some nasty things and about some of my players. And Gordy doesn't like that. I'm telling you, Gordy doesn't like that. Some of the players, Reed Larson doesn't like it. I don't like it either. So he's got to stay in check. Otherwise, you never know what's going to happen.
Bob Probert has it out for you. I have a feeling, yeah.
Keep him in check. That's all I got to say.
I will. Ken, I do have a question before we go. I saw it on YouTube. Jason Ross Jr. wants to know how to improve his play-by-play skills during this off season, or a little season pause, I should say.
I give Jason a lot of credit because he's always at Little Caesars Arena. He's practicing his skills, and I think one day he's going to be a fine announcer if he chooses the National Hockey League. But he's got a tremendous voice, and he works really hard. But again, I just think that it's hard to watch games on television, whether they're old games or not, and to practice, broadcasting off the TV. But that's one good way of doing it. But just make sure that now's a good time to start going over lineups and players and trying to memorize players on both teams, and just keep practicing. Just try to be the best that you can be. Work on different ways of saying things, saying phrases. So I think he continues to work really hard, and Jason down the road I think is going to be a fine announcer.
Love it. Learning from the best. That's what I would tell him. Just keep watching Ken Cal. Keep listening to him, I should say.
Ken, you're going to be joining us for our Downtown Hockey Town segment just a little bit later in the show. And thank you for doing this for Bet You Didn't Know. We're excited to watch this matchup tomorrow.
Well, thanks a lot, Daniela. I'll see you later, CARLEY, tomorrow. And like I said, keep Bob in check. I don't want to hear us chirping out there. Someone's going to have to take care of him. You know that. But I hope the fans enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun putting it together. And so I hope everybody picks a team, picks a side, and we'll see who wins.
Hopefully me. I'll see you again.
All right, CARLEY. We're going to keep you right here because I know you've been manning our social media accounts as always, both Tigers and Red Wings. What have you found this week?
You are very correct, Daniela. That's right. Tonight, we have Madison Bowie. He'll be going head-to-head against the Minnesota Wild goalie, Devin Dubnyk, in a game of Chell as part of the NHL Player Gaming Challenge. They'll be streaming on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube tonight, again, at 5 p.m. That's going to be an incredible game to see. Again, I know we're missing our live hockey, but this will have to do in the meantime. And now shifting gears to the Tigers, Daniel Norris's show, The Drip, went live this morning, and his guest today was Matt Boyd. So it was really cool to see them interact, and I especially like this part of the interview where they talked about this upcoming season and how it's been tough during the pause, but how they have a positive outlook on it.
We could be 2020 World Series champions. Never know.
Yeah.
We really could.
All up for grabs. Hell yeah, with our pitching, man. I love it. And our bats. We can. I mean, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting.
That was the biggest bummer about this entire thing was like watching us play this spring, the way we were throwing the ball, and then just the way like CJ and those guys were swinging, and Miggy. I mean, Miggy looked like, he was on fire. That was the biggest bummer, is like having to put that on pause, because I think that we were all like starting to see some like serious progression in our team. And
Incredible to hear them talking about the progression on the team, and we can't wait to see the MLB get back in action and the Tigers hit the field again. So don't forget to tune into The Drip on Instagram, on the Tigers Instagram, live at 10 a.m. on Thursdays. Looking forward to see who Daniel Norris will have on next. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. That was a really cool interview. Daniel Norris is doing really cool things with The Drip. And Carly, we'll see you later, and let's socialize. Make sure you guys are all over the social media accounts. Ask us any questions you have, and we will try to get to them later in the show. But for now, we're going to get to Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And as I told you, Ken Kale was sticking around for this segment. So now let's bring in Art and Ken. You guys ready for this one?
All ready to go.
All right.
I'm all set.
We'll get right into this.
Are you sure?
We'll get right into this one.
It seems like this is.
We're going to ask you. Go ahead, Art.
I was just going to say, I just have to say one thing. When with Carly's team, I thank God Bob Probert is on the same team as Anthony Mantha, because Proby will keep everybody in check. But I think what Ken was alluding to, and I don't know for a fact, obviously the game has not been played yet, but if there's one person that can take care of Bob Probert on the ice, I would have to say it's Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe. I mean, I would love to see those two go at it, but it's amazing. Everything that Ken was saying was how I was thinking about seeing Proby on Carly's team with Mantha, and then obviously Ken knowing that Bob is already chirping. That should be a great contest. But to see Gordie go after number 24, woo! That would be that's something special.
It really is. It's going to be a great matchup. And Ken, for this one, I'm going to ask you to kind of look into your crystal ball a little bit here. We're going to talk future Red Wings. So next season, the 2021 season, and I'm going to have you, yes, exactly, just like that, make a couple predictions here. All right. So the first one, will Anthony Mantha score over 30 goals?
I will tell you right here, first and foremost, if he stays healthy, he will not only score 30 goals, but on his way to 40. That's what I think of him. I think he really improved over the course from the year ago till last year. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's smarter, he understands the game, and he's got a terrific shot, as we see right here, beating the Bruin netminder short side. But the key is Anthony's got to stay healthy. And if that means not fighting or not getting into, fisticuffs, it seems like every time he drops the glove, something bad happens to him. But the Red Wings need him on the ice. And obviously he's one of those players that likes to go north-south. He drives hard to the front of the net, as we saw right there. And I will say that if he can stay healthy and he can play over 70 games, that yes, he will score over 30 goals next season.
I know we thought he would probably get to 30 if he hadn't hurt himself this season. So, I definitely agree with you on that one. But let's go to our next question. And I'm curious to see what both of you say on this one. So, Art, I'd like you to chime in on this one too. Who's going to be the top scorer for the 2021 season?
Art, take
Ken,
it away.
you can go first. Oh, okay.
Well,
Art,
I'll tell you what. All right. Well, thank you, Ken. I'm kind of thinking Alexis Lafreniere would be the top scorer on the team next year. Wishful thinking on my part.
I love it, Art.
Come on, that's who should be the top scorer. Get your act together, NHL. Let him be a Red Wing. Free Alexi. Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I can do a great Matt Boyd impression. Watch this.
Oh, man. That's a Red Wings hat.
Yeah, I don't have the hat with the S on it. I'm not sure what that was, but anyway, I'm not a big hat person. I think it's gonna be Mantha. And I think he's gonna get 45 if he stays healthy. I think the team's going to be better next year. I think there's going to be more high-end players. I think the defense is going to be a little bit better, a little more offensive. So I kind of look at everybody's numbers increasing. I think Mantha's the leading scorer, followed, that whole top line, Dylan and Tyler Bertuzzi, and then, whomever, Fabry for sure. And if Lafreniere is on the team, then he's going to be up there too.
All right.
I like
so
your
from
optimism,
that,
Art.
got
I like
the,
to see Lafreniere.
yeah. And Art made Mantha jump from 40 goals to 45 goals. So he's picking Anthony Mantha. Ken, who are you picking?
Well, I like Art's enthusiasm there, and I think the Red Wings need a break. And if they can get Lafreniere to come in, and if he can be the team's leading scorer, look out. But I have to go with Dylan Larkin. I just think that he's been the most consistent Red Wing ever since he started playing with Detroit. He's had some up years, he's had some down years. But the thing about Dylan Larkin is not only can he score goals, but he's a good setup man too. And he gets his shots away. He has a propensity to get that puck into the net. And he's pretty smart out there. He's been learning to hold on to the puck in the offensive zone and not throw it away. And if he continues to play with Bertuzzi and Mantha, boy, that line can be really dynamite. But I think when it's all said and done, and Dylan's shown that he can stay healthy for an entire National Hockey League season, and that's the key in the NHL is staying healthy. If Mantha and Tyler Bertuzzi, and you never know, maybe Lafreniere too if they can get him.
Ken, your audio cracked just a little bit there, so I didn't hear the part you said about Tyler Bertuzzi, but I did have a follow-up question I wanted to ask about him because I don't want to say it was quietly, but maybe a little bit unexpectedly. Tyler Bertuzzi had 21 goals before the season paused, and he very well could have scored 30 goals this season and very well still can if the season does resume. Did you consider him to be the top goal scorer at all for next year, or do you think it's Larkin's shoe-in?
Are you talking goal scoring or just overall points? I think if you're talking overall points, Dylan Larkin to me would probably be at the top of the list, followed by either Bertuzzi and Mantha. I don't know.
I'm thinking goals. Let's say goals for a second.
Yeah, if you're looking at top goal scoring, yes, obviously, I think Anthony Mantha. I think he has that ability to score, and I think if he just continues to shoot the puck, I think there are times when. You know, when you look at the final stat sheet and Mantha has one shot on goal or no shots on goal, it's a travesty because the guy's got to be able to shoot the puck. And I think if you look at all great scorers, you look at Ovechkin and some of these guys, if you're averaging 6, 7, 8 shots on goal a game, you know, the numbers, if you look at goalie save percentages, they stop 9 out of every 10 shots. That means if you get 10 shots on goal, one of them's going to go in. So, you know, you pile that up over the course of the season, then you can score some big goals and big numbers. So I just think that Anthony Mantha is a pure goal scorer. I think the thing about Anthony Mantha is he likes to be a playmaker too. But, you know, I think you got to put him in the slot. You know, get a guy to get him the puck and have him get his chances and have him shoot the puck as much as possible. And if you can get him in that triangle in front, he's going to be deadly and he's going to find the back of the net.
You know, I know that I definitely agree with Ken on that point. And I would go as far as goal scoring. I say Mantha 1, Philip Zadina 2, believe it or not, and Alex Lafreniere 3. So that's the way I'm going. I'm just using positive vibes right now. Lafreniere is a Red Wing. Yes. But anyway, Ken, I want to ask you. Yeah, really. All right. We should do the old Karnak bit, you know, a 10-speed, a 3-speed, and a flat tire. You know, name 2 Red Wings and, you know, a Detroit Lion. I did that for you, Ken. But
thank you.
But anyway, yeah, who do you think the Red Wings will sign in free agency? Who's going to be the biggest free agent acquisition?
You know, that's a tough question because I think there's a lot of players that would fit in nicely with the Red Wings. But the question is, do those players want to come here and how much term are they going to get? But I just look at things. I think they need to solidify a goalkeeper, and they need a goalkeeper that's going to possibly play half or even more than half of the season. And somehow they're going to have to find somebody who's a backup right now that can come in and do a heck of a job for Detroit. With that said, I mean, and these are just names that you throw out there. Like, who wouldn't want to have a Torrey Krug back there on the blue line? That would really help things out with Roenick out there. And if the Kaiser comes back, and if Mo Seider can come in and step into the lineup and be really well, all of a sudden your defensive core looks so much different, along with Patrick Nemeth back there. But I just think that, free agency, we just don't know, first of all, when it's going to happen, and I don't know what players are going to come to Detroit and how much Steve Eisman's going to offer some of these players. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I really believe that the goaltending situation is something that really needs to be solidified. And I always say you work from goal out. And after the goaltender, you work on your defense and then your forwards. And then if you can do all that, you'll be in good shape.
I think Ken's absolutely right. I think obviously they're going to get a goaltender. They're definitely going to get a backup goaltender. And Ken, I want to ask you this because I think that where the Red Wings are at, I can see Steve Yzerman kind of letting the forward core find its own way now. There's enough of these guys. Rasmussen's going to get his chance. Zadina obviously is going to get his chance. You look at, Giovanni Smith is going to get his chance. So I think that where they're going to add people, definitely a backup goaltender, maybe Thomas Greiss from the Islanders, somebody of that ilk. And then I think they are going to go for defense. The guy that I keep touting is Eric Gustafsson. I think they would love him. I know that Calgary traded for him from Chicago at the trade deadline. That might be a tough get. But I also think TJ Brody is somebody Steve's familiar with. Look for him. And also, I think that, maybe a guy like Travis Hamonic or somebody along those lines. I think they're going to go defense and goaltending for sure. And Ken's right, absolutely right. I think where the Red Wings are at right now, I don't think Steve wants to go more than – I think he wants 1-year deals, but I think he wants to sign guys short-term, 2-year. When Steve feels the Red Wings are ready to pounce and make their move, he will sign, unless Torrey Krug comes out of nowhere, as I said last show, and says, hey, I want to come home to Detroit. Okay, then you sign him to a long-term deal. But if it isn't a guy like a Torrey Krug or somebody, I think we're looking at guys 2-year deals. When the Red Wings are ready, then Steve is going to sign guys long-term in free agency.
Agreed, Art. And we obviously have a lottery pick in this coming draft, and Art's set on that. We already have Alexi Lafreniere on our team, so let's hope that he's right. But the Red Wings obviously have a lottery pick in this coming draft. Now we're going to talk about next year's draft. So, Ken, a year from now, will the Red Wings have a lottery pick again?
My answer is yes, they will. And I don't mean that to be saying that, well, this next year is going to be tough. Well, it's going to be tough unless you get some surprises. And this is a slow process. It's not going to change overnight, in my opinion. The only way it'll change is if you manage to get a couple of really solid players who produce from free agency. If guys like Seider can step in and maybe some knows that the way to win is you have to build slowly. And if you did get some surprises, that's exactly what they'll be, surprises, and they can help your club move a little bit faster. But I think we're still a little bit of ways away. I think there still needs some positions that need to be improved upon. And I believe right now the Red Wings will have a lottery pick again next year.
All right, what about you? What do you think? Will the Red Wings be in the lottery again next season?
I'm not going to say they're counting on it, but unfortunately, I do. I think at this point, all you have to do is look at the record this year. I mean, the guys were in virtually every hockey game. Every mistake the Red Wings made this season seemed to, as Kenny can attest, seemed to end up in the back of their net. There's a lot of 1-goal games played. The margin of error in the NHL is razor thin. But I think where the Red Wings are at, and especially if the forward core is young, and I think they're going to be very, very young, and I think there is going to be a lot of baptism under fire. If they catch a couple of breaks with the players, hey, could they be on the cusp of the playoffs next year? Certainly, that could definitely happen. I mean, stranger things have happened. But I think where they're at right now, they are probably still going to have a lottery pick next season.
Art, I think we got the answer to this next question from you earlier in the show, so I'm going to let Ken go first on this one. Who will the Red Wings captain be next year?
You know what? I hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but you know what? I don't think the Red Wings are in a position still to name a captain. I mean, it's not to say that it can't happen, But I still think that Steve Yzerman is still looking at this club. He's had a year to take a look at his players. And as I mentioned in a couple of our shows earlier, I don't think Steve wants to put any type of added pressure onto any young player out there to be the captain of the team. Now, I know Dylan Larkin's name has been bandied about, and obviously he's probably the next captain of this Red Wing team. But again, this team is rebuilding, and they're going to face a lot of pain. And it's not easy for a young guy. And although Dylan's not too young anymore, he's actually got 4 or 5 years under his belt now. But still, it's a lot of added pressure when you have to face the media when things aren't going right. And as we mentioned, I think it's still going to be a struggle for the Red Wings for a while until these picks that they're picking right now and over the last couple of years start developing, and then things will really take off. But I would say that it wouldn't surprise me if they do name a captain. On the other hand, if they don't name a captain, it wouldn't surprise me as well.
Ken, I tend to agree with you there because I do think Steve Yzerman, obviously he was a Red Wings captain, and I don't want to say it means more to be a captain here in Detroit than anywhere else, because being a captain is a big deal. But being a Red Wings captain has always been something that's really prestigious. And Steve Yzerman knows what it takes to get there. So I think, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised really either way, but I think he wants to be certain that he is naming the right guy the captain, and that he knows it's time for them to be the captain. So Art, I'm going to let you give your opinion on this one. What do you think about the captain situation for next season?
I really think it's pretty obvious. It's Alexis Lafreniere. I mean, what the hell? Steve's just going to give him the C. As a matter of fact, in the virtual draft, as soon as the Red Wings call his name, instead of a 20, there'll be a 20. That'll be because of his draft year, and then they're going to turn that jersey around, and there's going to be a C there. That's the way Steve likes to do things. No, I'm just joking. I mean, hey, if it isn't Lafreniere, and he's not even a Red Wing yet, but if it's not him, Mo Seider could be a good pick because he's definitely a leader of men. I've seen that even through the prospects tournament in the way he conducts himself. But come on, it has to be Dylan. I mean, Ken knows after each and every game, Dylan is front and center. He's doing everything that a captain does. And Abdicator's there. I mean, all the guys, Luke Glendening, all the guys that have the letters on their sweaters, they're always there and doing it. But Dylan is the guy who is thoughtful. He speaks his mind. He sometimes says, well, hey, I don't want to, I'm going to say this, but I'm not going to say what I really want to say because I don't want the league office to call me. I think what he's exhibited through a very difficult year, I think, when the time comes and whenever that time is, I would not be surprised if Dylan Larkin is the Red Wings' next captain.
Well, you guys, I appreciate you both putting on your little psychic outfits there, using the crystal balls to get into next year. And Art, I have never been hoping that you're right more than today in the fact that Alexis Lafreniere will be a Red Wing. So if Art, maybe this is true, maybe it's not, but Art, I'm really hoping you're right on this one.
Hey, that kid's a player. He'll make the team. And I'd love to see the young group of forwards that they have right now, and they do have a nice young group of forwards. You put an elite level talent like Lafreniere is on that team, suddenly everybody's better, and who knows? Maybe the Red Wings can surprise next season.
Only problem is we have to draft him first, and like I said, hopefully that happens. But Ken, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for us today, Ken. You were great as always, and we will see you soon. You enjoy your weekend.
All right, thanks, Danielle. Art, I'm with you all the way, buddy.
I know great minds think alike, Kenny.
Thank you, Ken, and another thank you to our friends at Labatt Blue Light for bringing us downtown Hockey Town, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Now let's get into Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren. And today's guest, we are very, very excited to welcome former Tiger and current member of the Fox Sports Detroit Tigers broadcast team, Craig Monroe. Craig, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
No, thank you guys for having me.
Yes, we're really excited to have you on with us. And I got to ask you before we get into some baseball talk, what have you been doing to pass the time during this quarantine?
Well, let's see. I've started Doing a little puzzle. I've been doing some puzzles. I played a lot of phase 10. I've shot a lot of basketball out in front with my little boys. I got twin boys, Kenan and Colin. So we go out front. We're working on our jumper. And I've also played the guitar a little bit. And I've just there's no sports, so I've just kind of been binge watching movies on Netflix. That's what I've been doing.
Hey, well, you're not alone. I think we've all been doing that a little bit. But thanks to our friends at Fox Sports Detroit, we've been able to relive some awesome classic moments, including the 06 Tigers games, which are airing this week. And they've got some really great playoff games. And last night, we got to saw the Pudge walk-off against the Indians. And I swear every time you watch that moment, it's like you're really in it again and you're just as excited. And I mean, from your perspective as a player during that game, what was that moment like?
I think throughout that whole season, there was just something. I mean, there was something brewing, and you could just tell it. It just seemed like no matter who was up in the game when the game was on the line, we all just had so much confidence that they were going to get it done. They were going to come through. And if it was me, if it was Marcus Timms, I mean, if it was Granderson, Polanco. The list just went on. We just believe, even our bench guys like Gomez, Alexis Gomez coming off the bench. We just felt like we had guys that when the game was on the line knew how to relax and put the pressure on the pitcher and come up with big hits. So to watch Pudge, a Hall of Famer, go up there in that situation and hit a walk-off, wasn't surprised because I feel like I've seen him do it several times.
Well, speaking of big home runs in 2006, don't sell yourself short. I can distinctly remember against the White Sox, Javier Vasquez, you cracked a grand slam, and the White Sox and the Tigers were neck and neck in 2006 for a long time. I mean, I can remember going to Chicago to watch the Tigers play the White Sox, obviously, and you called it at that time by far the biggest home run of your career. And you've hit many big home runs. Does that one still stand out?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I remember that because, again, we had that bad blood with the Chicago White Sox, you know. They didn't really like us that much, and we didn't care for them that much. But we had that mutual respect between the white lines. But, yeah, when I had that at bat against Javier Vasquez, I remember it vividly. I mean, it was a long at bat, too. I mean, I want to believe it was 11 pitch at bat. And he had threw me the kitchen sink. He had threw every pitch in his arsenal. And then he ended up throwing a changeup, I believe, And I was out front, but I kept my hands back. And when I made contact, I knew right away the ball was gone because it makes it's that sound. There's a sound that it makes. It's a real loud noise in your ear. And I heard that sound and I saw the fly of the ball and I thought, oh my God, are you kidding me? This just happened. And then once I got to home plate, my brother Marcus Timms is at home plate. And we go to give this double high five. Well, AJ Hinch is like standing right on top of home plate. So we kind of bump him. I kind of bump him a little bit, and we have some words and stuff I can't say on here. But you know, it was just one of those things where it was exciting to do something against the White Sox, especially given the fact that there had been a little of that bad blood going.
Some great memories from 2006, and we're going to continue watching those classic games on Fox Sports Detroit tonight with the ALDS Game 2, and that series was against the Yankees. And I've got to throw it back to Game 1 for a minute here, because in that game, Derek Jeter was hot. The crowd was roaring. I don't think anybody in New York, even before that game, but definitely not after that game, did they think that the Tigers had a chance to win that series. How did that game kind of impact the rest of the series moving forward?
We just, we went into the season, and even in spring training when Jim Lena sent us the letters talking about how we were going to take the field. We were going to take the field like the Yankees and the Red Sox, the team that were winning championships. And we bought in early. And so when we had a chance to go up against the Yankees, we had there was a silent, quiet confidence in that clubhouse. And so when we took the big stage, we really felt like we could shock the world. And again, we called it that because nobody expected us to beat the Yankees. And I remember running around, when we did finally beat them and running around Comerica Park, and we had we were talking about it. We were saying, hey, we shocked the world. We shocked the world. So what a special moment, not only for us as players, but to share that with the Tiger fans was truly special.
Craig, I'm not one of these guys that remembers a lot of quotes. You know, my short term, as I get older, the short term memory is completely gone, and you know, I have problems even remembering my name sometimes. So what I want to ask you, I want to go back, you know, to New York again, 2006, April 30th. You hit the go-ahead home run against the Yankees. Your dear mother's first name is Marilyn. We can see with your jersey hanging back there in your man cave. Your last name is Monroe, and you said
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe is here in New York, and I am thrilled. I would imagine, especially in that media savvy town, people just jumped on that, had no idea what you were talking about, I don't think, unless they knew you personally. I mean, that was just one of those great moments. I mean, that's what makes sports, particularly baseball, such a great game.
Oh, that was that was one of my favorite moments of my life, to be honest with you, because I mean, you guys know we had gotten rained out the night before, and I had flew my mom into New York, and it was the first time she'd ever been on a plane. And she flew to New York to hang out with me and come watch the game at Old Yankee Stadium. That's something as a child I'd always dreamed about doing, and that was playing at Old Yankee Stadium. And getting the opportunity to do that, I wanted to share that moment with my mom. And so, yeah, she flies in, and so there's a rain delay, so they cancel the game. We actually go to Lion King, the play that night, and have a great time. And then we come back, then the doubleheader the next day. And I was 0 for 4 the first game. And what made it so special was I was 0 for 4 the first game. And I remember her walking down the stairs from the family section. She comes down and she's like, and I was like, I think I punched out a couple of times, kind of sad, because I'm like, man, my mom's here, wanted to do well, And she kind of just put a hand through the fence and was like, don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. You got another game, and you're going to get them in this game. And lo and behold, Scott Proctor, dude, the first pitch, it was at like top of the ninth inning. He hung me a first pitch slider, and I absolutely crushed this ball to left center. And all I can remember is hitting second base and hitting third base and coming home and seeing my mom up there. And and that's where the moment I was like, man, this is the moment. I am thrilled to death that Marilyn Monroe is in the Big Apple, in the Old Yankee Stadium, where some of the greatest players have ever played. And here I am hitting a go-ahead home run to give my team a chance to win a ball game. Goosebump stuff for me.
I do want to ask you a couple of questions about this current Tigers team. You were a part of the Tigers for some tough years, but you were also a part of that amazing turnaround. So I'm not asking you to kind of predict whether the Tigers are going to make a World Series run, but what do you like about the direction that this current team is headed in?
I love the young talent. I love the young pitching staff that is in the minor leagues. We've got 5, 6 of the top 100 prospects in all of Major League Baseball, led by Casey Mize. You've got Scooble, Matt Manning. So from a pitching standpoint, the organization's in a really good place. When I start thinking about these guys, and I know right now they're prospects, but you start thinking about the likes of the Atlanta Braves, those dynasties that they had, where they had the Smokes, the Maddox, and the Glavins, and Avery was mixed in there too. So I think the Tigers are setting themselves up from a pitching standpoint to really go out and be able to compete, not only for like 1 year, but I think year after year after year. And now these young position players are starting to mature, and I think we're going to see them. A guy that stands out to me is Riley Green. I mean, he's one of the guys. Watched him take batting practice, and he was already hitting balls at the Pepsi porch, and he's an 18-year-old kid. So looking forward to watching this young Tiger team go through their growing pains. I'm looking forward to that too, because it's going to build some character. It's going to, they're going to learn a lot through some adversity. But I think we're going to reap the benefits or the reward for it in a few years.
I have to ask you, Craig, about something. I mean, obviously, we all love the Tigers, the Old English D. You were a terrific ball player for Detroit. Yet, it's almost must-see TV every Tiger game just to see what you're wearing. Your outfits are just incredible. I know you've started your own fashion line, and I love the name. This is your fault for having eyes. Have you always been a fashion bug, a fashion plate, a guy that's been astute. Like when you're little Craig Monroe and and God bless her, Marilyn Monroe is feeding you dinner, are you sitting there not so much thinking about a picture, but sketching a suit or a tie or something? I mean, has that always been part of who you are? Has been, I have to look my very best regardless of the situation?
That, my friend, is true. Now, I will say that I do. I've always been that way. Now, I will say this. Now, I think I like putting together color schemes more so than sketching out. I'm not sketching out any suit designs, or I'm not drawing any tie designs. Now, let's be clear. I'm not that good at all. But what I do enjoy is expressing myself. I like to have fun with my outfits. I do, and I love color. I feel like I don't know, it brightens me up. It brightens my day up. I'm a bubbly, kind of fun, loving, wear my emotion on my sleeve kind of guy. And so wearing the suits kind of just they blend well with my personality. Let's just say that.
I've got a question for you then, because I think Art needs a couple of these fancy suits. Maybe you could help him out and be his stylist here, because we host a couple of shows together now, and I think that would be phenomenal.
All right, let's get
Me
together
wearing
one
an
day.
exclusive.
I missed opening day too, Art. I had something brewing really well. I was looking forward to this crazy opening day outfit, but we'll see. We'll see if whenever this baseball baseball gets going, maybe we'll have an opening day splash with a suit or something. We'll see.
I'm counting
Definitely.
on it.
And you've got a fashion sense. Oh, Art, I know you are. I know you are. Greg, you've got a fashion sense and a baseball sense. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of both today on Brush Street Beat. It's been awesome to have you with us.
Oh, man, thank you guys so much. This was fun. See, this is fun. I enjoyed this. This is relaxed, and I enjoyed myself. Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's perfect. Felt
That's
very
great
comfortable.
to hear. We'll definitely have you back.
All right, sounds good to me.
Another thank you to Craig Monroe, and a big thank you to McLaren Health System for sponsoring the Brush Street Beat this week and every week here on the Word on Woodward. Art, he was definitely right. That was a lot of fun having Craig Monroe on, and he had some great stories. And I got to tell you, I loved that question about his mom, Marilyn Monroe, because I just imagine her going places and signing her signature or handing like a credit card or something, and people saying, "Oh, Marilyn Monroe, that's interesting."
Yeah, certainly. I really don't remember a lot of quotes, but I always remember that one, and I thought it was great. He's a lot of fun. He does dress really, really well, and if he's willing to, give me his cast-offs and his hand-me-downs, I'm more than willing to wear them.
Oh, I think he is ready to work with you, and we're going to make that happen, Art, because like I said, you and we host a couple of shows together now, and I think we need to get you in some of those fancy, colorful suits. Like even the 4th of July one that he had going on, that was, oh, wow, look at who wore it better.
Whoa.
Art, I mean, you look pretty good in it, Art. I'm not going to lie. You should test it out.
You know what, Danielle? I kind of agree with you. I mean, Craig looks great, since it's actually his body and head, and I've just been, but I don't think I look too bad. I mean, I think I could pull that off. And plus I have major league hands now, so maybe the Tigers are looking for a savvy veteran guy, and maybe I still have some talent. First of all, whomever took this picture over at Little Caesars Arena, I compliment them. I mean, that is that's one of the best pictures I've ever taken. I mean, if you can make my mug look semi-decent, I kind of like it, but, I'm not that much of an egomaniac. I'm voting for Craig.
Okay, well, we're going to have everyone else vote on this one too. So if you're watching, make sure you cast your vote. Tell us who wore it better. Give us an Art or Craig answer, and hopefully CARLEY can help us out in answering that one in Let's Socialize. But Art, I got to tell you, I mean, obviously that was blue and orange. Those were, the Tigers colors. We could get you in a nice red and white one, maybe some sparkles, something. That would be amazing for Game Day Live.
Whoa, I'll tell you, sparkles would really be an accent that I would really embrace, I guess. Maybe we can have like sparkles on my face. I can be like Aladdin Sane, like David Bowie or somebody like that. I think it would be excellent. I don't think the one thing that seems to be a lost art today in sports, and as soon as the fans are back and we're all sitting in the arena, is face paint. People just don't paint their faces like they should. With a Craig Monroe ensemble, I think I could come up with a face paint contraption. Contraption, not the right word, but I could paint my face and it would just blend in perfectly. But but Simo, I love the orange suit. I love the all orange suit. To me, orange is a tough color to pull off, and he certainly did it. It looked great.
I'm also looking forward. He said that he had a great opening day suit that we haven't got to see yet.
Oh,
so I'm looking forward to when we get to see that.
I can only imagine. Can you really imagine what he's going to be wearing? And now, regardless of what the original concept was, because opening day hopefully it begins in July, like seems to be the speculation right now. That he is going to add just another certain flair to it, which is going to put it not even over the top, out of this universe. I can't wait to see it.
I agree with you there, Art, and everybody. You can catch those classic Tigers games. There's another one airing tonight. Again, that's Game 2 of the ALDS, and we got them tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a weekend of Tigers playoff baseball, so make sure you're tuning in on Fox Sports Detroit. And now I'm going to hand it over to Art for today's headliner.
Thank you, Daniela. Time now for the headliner, brought to you by Miller Lite. And let's bring in our guest, the director of scouting for TSN, no stranger to the old podcast, the Red and White Authority. And we're so happy to have on the headliner, Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You know that. I could talk to you for days upon days upon days.
and I feel exactly the same way, Art. And it's not just about the Red Wings. We can talk about so many things. Michigan, football, hockey, basketball, everything that goes with the Wolverines. And I also see that album cover of Sinatra in your background. Best concert I ever saw with my mother. I was 14 years old.
Really? You saw Frank. It's interesting. My parents really liked Sinatra, but Dean Martin, Perry Como, Nat King Cole. So I grew up, I was really small, but I grew up on all that stuff. You've always had good taste, Greg. Always. So I'm not surprised you would notice.
Thanks.
The chairman of the board, so to speak.
Yeah.
Let's get into the draft. And I really want to ask you, I was really looking forward to seeing you in Ann Arbor and in Plymouth for the U18s. How significantly has COVID-19 impacted this draft, or was a lot of the legwork pretty much done by the time everything went on pause?
What I would say, Art, is a lot of the legwork up until that point in time was done. I mean, there's no laggards in NHL scouting circles. Everybody's putting in the time and making sure that they're watching the players and ensuring that they are where they need to be. But those are important times for evaluation for all teams, down the stretch into the playoffs, whether it be the NCAA playoffs, whether it be the junior playoffs in North America and in Europe, as well as the World Under-18 Championships, which is truly a best on best for with the vast majority of players being available. The players miss out on, giving themselves the opportunity to show more of what they're capable of. And all the NHL teams have missed that opportunity too. What I would say to that then is that everybody's dealing, with the same exact type of scenario, which, you want to give yourself the most confidence when you're going into to select players in the amateur draft. But nobody's going to have a leg up on anybody else with respect to seeing those players play in those situations, because everybody got affected in the exact same manner.
How much, I guess what I'm curious to look at is when you see how much impact will this have on these individual players? I guess a guy like Lafreniere, regardless of when next season starts and regardless of what team gets him, hopefully a team wearing red and white, or I guess red and black, probably Ottawa. But aside from that, he's going to do you think he is that good where he's absolutely going to make the NHL next season?
I have no doubt about it whatsoever, Art. And not only make the NHL, contribute at the NHL level. I think he's capable of 60 or more points as a rookie. That's how good he is. I mean, if you look at his resume over his 3 seasons playing junior hockey, all he's done is excel. All he's done is do things that the very few players have ever done. 16-year-old rookie in the Quebec League, first one to score 40 or more goals as a 16-year-old since Sidney Crosby. Goes to the under-18 tournament, was a dominant player as an underage. That summer, the Hlinka Gretzky MVP gold medal performance for the ages. Then he becomes the CHL Player of the Year after the 2018-2019 season. We know what he did at the World Junior Tournament. All he has done is excel. And I think that not only is he capable of playing in the NHL, I think he's capable of being a very good contributor in his rookie season. He's that good, Art, as a player.
Well, I'm just hoping then they adopt this this new draft policy. Before we get into some of the other players I want to talk to you about, I'm really kind of curious when you look at the Red Wings and you look at their needs and you look at Steve's first year. Your mini state of the Red Wings. I mean, I would imagine, regardless of where they are in the draft, I think Steve's going to probably look for goal scoring. He needs guys who can put the puck in the net on a more consistent basis. Obviously, Lafreniere is one of those guys. That would look really, really good, Craig. You got me all fired up. But, the Red Wings needs, and how do you think they're going to address the draft?
Well, where do you find high-end skill? And when you talk about goal scoring, the best offensive players, the best goal scoring, dynamic offensive defensemen, it's always at the top part of the draft. So, it's a great opportunity for the Red Wings to acquire a player that can come in and be a significant difference maker. There is... you have to make the distinction between having prospects that are good NHL prospects that can contribute and be good, solid players, and then the difference makers. And when you're picking in the top part of the draft, that's where you find the difference makers. That's where you can acquire those players that, really not only become the foundation of your organization, but they ease some of the burden and the pressure on some of those other players that allows them to just settle in and be the players that they're capable of being. Nothing worse than when you ask younger players to go and try to do more than they're capable of doing, because the NHL is the best league in the planet. It's a really difficult league to have success in. And when you're young and you're trying to find your way, and not only that, you're being asked to do more than you're capable of, it almost becomes an impossible task. Not that it's impossible, but you're asking a lot. When you get the top end players that can come in and make those contributions, I think it just filters and just goes, it just works all the way through your team and your organization. And that's how you build a championship team. And that's the opportunity that the Red Wings have.
With that said, Craig, let's get into some of these other players, get your quick assessment. We talked about Lafreniere. I know Joe Veleno's really tight with him, very close, another high-end draft pick for the Red Wings. And he says what makes Alexei great is not only his skill, but the type of teammate and the type of individual that he really is, that when he walks into a room, you're getting a good character person.
Yeah, and Joey, who's played against him and played with him, has a really good feel for that and understands that. And I couldn't agree with Joe any more than what he said. The other thing I'll add about Alexei Lafreniere, when you're a top player, and you're a top player, you're expected to perform like a top player. And never have I seen Alexei Lafreniere shy away from those expectations. Further to that, never have I seen him not rise to those challenges and to those situations and deliver. And I think that it's great to have skill. It's great to have, the great determination and competitive spirit. But to know that you're looked upon as the go-to guy, and to know that the challenges will only become that much more significant as you move along in the course of your season, and depending on what teams you're playing for with respect to events, and then knowing that player is going to deliver, that's what you get in Alexei Lafreniere.
I'll tell you what, Craig, we can go on about Alexei forever. I mean, if my local church was open, I'd be I'd be lighting some candles, boy. earth. Just get this guy. Anyway, it's got to be a Red Wing. With that said, let's go to a guy that, has really risen up the charts. And I think that everyone, at least in Red Wing land, is very familiar with the Mannheim team because of Mo Seider, last year's pick. But that's Tim Stutzla, who really has kind of emerged here as maybe he himself, may not be Lafreniere, but boy, he's a pretty darn good player.
He really is. So what needs to happen is you can have Joey Veleno talk about Lafreniere. Well, you need Mo Seider to talk about Tim Stutzla. And when you consider Stutzla as a 16-year-old, he really showed he opened up eyes, and you said, "Ooh, we better pay attention to this player." And I'll tell you what, he's got a mind for the game and creativity and imagination that reminds me so much of Patrick Kane. But it's this about him that really gets me excited. I mean, you got to have the skill to be talked about in the top part of the draft. But for me, what Stutzla does is rare. He doesn't wait to see what the game is going to offer to him. He says to the game, I'm putting my hands on this game. I'm going to put my stamp on it. He's not waiting to see how it unfolds. He is going after it. He is grabbing the game by the scruff of its neck. Very few players have that quality. And, one of the players that did that, I mean, the top players have always done that. But, when I think about players like that, it's players like Peter Forsberg. You know what? There was going to be the game when the puck drops. Here, you better deal with me. And I think, and he's not the only one. Peter comes to mind. There's so many other top quality, great players. And I think that Stutzla, with the skill and with that type of mentality, he's really a terrific player.
Certainly Stutzla can play center, but a true center, a guy who is a behemoth in a way, a big kid, pretty young though I think he's one of the youngest players in the draft this year, Quinton Byfield. What can you tell us about him? He kind of did what Joey Veleno went through last year in the World Juniors. He kind of went through this year on Team Canada, even though they wore a gold medal. It's kind of an 18, 19-year-old tournament. He was younger, but he is, I don't know. I think it's going to be difficult for Steve or the Red Wings to look at this and think, gosh, big center. We need a center. Top line guy. Is Quinton Byfield that guy, perhaps?
Well, I don't have any doubt that he's the number one center and can have a significant impact in the National Hockey League. I mean, if you want to look, like for me, when I watch Quinton Byfield, I mean, you can make the comparisons the way he handles the puck to Evgeny Malkin, his determination to play everywhere on the rink like Anze Kopitar. And so when I look at Quinton and I look at a range, I say, okay, I'm comparing him to Evgeny Malkin and Anze Kopitar, champions, winners, Hall of Famers. And at the very least, I think he would be, at the very least, he'd be Sean Couturier. Well, is there any downside in having Sean Couturier on your team? I would say absolutely not. No. So the thing with Quinton, as you point out about being a young player, I still believe that Quinton is finding out how good a player he can be. He's got skill, but that confidence that comes with, achieving and being a significant contributor and knowing that it's not just that I can, that I will. He can impose himself. But I think that's part of the maturation process for Quinton Byfield. Art, I've said this, and I will continue to say this. I think if the team that drafts Quinton Byfield in the 2020 draft puts him in the NHL, I think it'll be a big mistake. I think he needs another year of finding out how dominant he can be and being a significant contributor, a dominant player with the Sudbury Wolves. And I think that's imperative for his development. I think you have to be patient with him. Could he play in the NHL? Yeah, but I differentiate between playing and contributing. And if you want the best out of Quinton, and you make the point about the World Junior Championship, he wasn't ready for that. It's not that he doesn't have the skill or the potential. It's just that he wasn't ready. And I feel the same way about the NHL for the 2020-2021 season.
Well, the Red Wings have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, 3 second-rounders. I think everyone's looking forward to that. Obviously, Steve's made his mark with some late draft picks, or not the number 1 first round. He's gotten a lot of great players in the second and third round too. Craig, what's the old showbiz expression? Always leave them wanting more. That's what we're going to have to do, unfortunately. We have run out of time. But I really, really want to thank you. Not only do I appreciate your insight, but I appreciate our friendship. We go back a long, long way, back to the days in Ann Arbor, watching Michigan's football team up in the press box. So thank you. We're going to have you on again, certainly. And I always appreciate it. I'm glad everyone's safe, and you just take care of yourself. Thank you for joining us on The Headliner, Craig.
My pleasure. Appreciate you having me on and being part of it, and I value the friendship.
Thank you very much. That is The Headliner with Craig Button, the scouting director for TSN in Canada, brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light beer with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Once again, thanks to Craig Button.
Great insight from Craig Button there. And I know he talked about a lot of prospects, but Art, I think this is your day to talk about Alexis Lafreniere. And if you didn't love him before that interview, you had to have loved him after that interview too. He just really talked about how great Lafreniere was. And like I said, that might just be your thing today.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I feel good now. I think it's a positive vibe. I mean, this was obviously unscripted and unplanned. And I don't know if you would agree with me, and I think CARLEY can comment on this too, because you both cover the league so well, is that I think that Lafreniere looks a little bit like Jack Eichel. There must be a family resemblance. So, I mean, I think of weird stuff, I guess, when I'm watching these things go on. But hey, look, all kidding aside, this kid's going to make an impact. And if Craig Button, who is always cautiously optimistic, but tells it like it is, if he's telling us that he can score at least 60 points, if not more, as a rookie, a raw rookie in the NHL, my God, what a talent that is. And so I'm just looking forward to him now playing in the league. I mean, certainly. Do I hope that he's in a Red Wing uniform? You bet I do. But I think, and if he goes to Ottawa, which is probably a good case scenario too, at least you'll be in the same division.
And Art, I think we all learned a lot there from talking to Craig, but what was your personal biggest takeaway?
Well, I think his biggest takeaway is that the way he broke it down, I think you could tell, obviously Lafreniere is NHL ready. Stützle appears to be NHL ready too. I like what he said about him, that he makes the game does not come to him, he takes the game over, kind of what he was, I think, alluding to, and I think that's really a great a great trait to have. So obviously, Stützle, and remember, you can look at his overall statistics. He played in a professional league. Mannheim is a professional team. He's playing against players that are established and older. They're men. So, and what he was able to do, I think, was great. And then, Quinton Byfield, which we all heard about, is that he's one of the youngest players in the draft, 6'3". He still needs to realize his full potential. He would not put Byfield in the in the NHL. Could he play in the NHL? If the Red Wings drafted him, could he play for the Red Wings? Probably he could. But another year of seasoning in Sudbury, and then he would be all set. And then then you're looking at Dillon number 1 center, Byfield maybe number 2, or Joe Veleno, and then your 4th line center. Maybe Franz Nielsen. I mean, his contract's still up, but I mean, they're going to look pretty good down the middle here, real quickly. And again, Stützle can play center too. Lafreniere is a winger, but a guy like that, you can see he's all over the ice. I mean, he just get him the puck and let him work. So I don't care where he plays, as long as he's on the team. And I really want him on the team, Daniela. Make it happen, Daniela. Please make it happen.
All right, I'll make some phone calls, Art. Right when we're done with the show today, I'll pick up my phone and see what I can do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. You're a player. You're a player, Daniela. You're a player. You can make it happen.
Definitely. It's time for Let's Socialize, presented by AAA, everybody. Let's bring in CARLEY, who has been manning all of our social media accounts, Tigers and Red Wings. And I know that our fans out there, of course, thank you for watching, have some great questions for us, as always. So CARLEY, take it away.
Thanks, Daniela. Yep, I've been on social media today, and the first one is for Art. Okay, during the Drip, Daniel Norris's show, he and Matt Boyd were praising Ron Gardenhire on how much he has helped with the progression of the Tigers. How big of an impact do you think Gardy has had on this team?
Well, I think it's been a profound impact. And the reason is he's a veteran manager. He went through this with the Minnesota Twins. And I think that if you're getting a young team, certainly, you can get, remember, managers at this level, the professional level, you're a little bit of a psychologist too. And I think that he's able to read his team. He figures it out. The guys that need the swift kick in the butt, he gives that to them. And the guys that need the put your arm around them, give them a little bit of a hug and encouragement. And I think his personality, he's an affable man. He's got a great sense of humor. So I think he is able to make his point and kind of calm everyone down. I think at this point where the Tigers are at, it doesn't come down so much about wins and losses at this point. I mean, obviously, you want to win every game, and they certainly try to win every game. I think it comes down to teaching them how to win and learning from your mistakes, facing that adversity. And what better way than a guy like Ron Gardenhire, who I said has done it with the Twins, and just his personality. I mean, when he talks, certainly there have been times, I remember watching the post-game shows last year on Fox Sports Detroit where he was down. He didn't like what was happening, but you could tell, and no pun intended, Gardy was guarded because he didn't really want to get down on his young players and his young team because he didn't want to, shake any kind of their confidence. At this level, even though they're major league ball players, I think especially a young team that he has, you have to continue to build them up and prop them up and let them know, especially in baseball, 162 games, there's always tomorrow. So I think his effect has been profound. And I think at this point where the Tigers are at, I don't think it gets much better as a manager than Ron Gardenhire right now.
You love to hear it. Great guy. Okay. And Daniela, for you, EC Clark is asking, how many wins may goalie Jonathan Bernier get in the 2020-2021 season? Ooh, that's a mouthful.
All right. Well, I'm right now. I'm not going to give an exact number answer on this because I think there are a lot of factors that play into it. And obviously, we don't really know what the Red Wings goaltending situation is going to be for the 2021 season. A lot of people think that they might go after a goalie in free agency and things like that. So there's a lot that's going on there. And Jonathan Bernier had started 41 games before the NHL pause. So he was going to play more than half the games, but he was still splitting time with Jimmy Howard. So what is that situation going to look like for him next year is something that is really unknown. But if I had to guess, he's going to have more wins than he did this year because I think the Red Wings are in general going to take a step in the right direction for next season. So my answer to that for now, since I don't really know the whole situation, will be it's going to be more than last year.
I love it. I know he kept the team in a lot of games. Really kind of maybe the players up front were kind of leaving him out to dry. But, I mean, he really held his own this season. And then back to Art. This isn't a fan question, but the Peanut Gallery wants to know, and they agreed with you after asking, Larkin's speed or Mantha's shot? So, like I said, Peanut Gallery agrees with you that, drumroll please, Larkin's speed trumps Mantha's shot. What is your takeaway on that?
Well, I think that you can tell that Dylan is from Detroit and played for the University of Michigan. We always like the hometown guy. But what it tells me is like I alluded to earlier. And first of all, I just want to say, piggybacking on Daniela's question, is that if Lafreniere is on the Red Wings next year, Bernier's numbers are through the roof. He's at least winning 30 games. I'm just not. This show can't end soon enough if you don't want to hear me talk about Lafreniere. But I love the guy. I mean, he's got to be a Red Wing. But
we know.
But with that said, obviously, like Dylan's speed makes up for a lot of mistakes, that he makes on the ice. And he doesn't make many, but I mean, if he turns a puck over, he can chase a guy down. He can get that puck back.
Right.
And, so he's a great two-way player. And, and you need speed to be a great two-way player. And that's exactly what Dylan Larkin is. So I'm not surprised that Dylan won this, not only because of his local ties, obviously, to the area, but because speed is the name of the game in today's NHL. It's a very, very fast league. But, don't sell BT. Don't sell the BT Express short. I mean, Anthony Mantha has some speed too. He's just not a shot. Anthony Mantha is a good all-round quality player and very underrated with his passing game too. So the Red Wings have two real big keepers in Anthony Mantha and also in Dylan Larkin. But again, to repeat it for like the billionth time, I really think that Dylan's speed, just by slight, I'd rather have that skill. I'd rather have their bank accounts. Let's be honest. That's what I'd rather have. But at that point, if I have to choose a skill, yeah, right. I think we're all in agreement there. Everyone listening is in agreement. The whole crew is saying, yeah, right on, man. Who wouldn't? But and more power to them. I don't begrudge anybody what their salary or athletes. Money's never been an issue for me. Because I've never had any. But with that said, I really do think. I really do think. Yeah, really.
Oh,
really. I'm gonna start a GoFundMe page for some reason. I'm not even sure what that is. But anyway, I would.
A new cat castle.
I
would. A new cat castle. Start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, you're right.
For a new cat castle.
Yeah, I definitely need a new cat castle, and all three of them for today.
I don't think you need a bigger one.
Time, all three of them want to break in. And this door keeps opening up behind me, and and it's and I look, and it's always a different cat coming in, and they just sit there and stare at me. They don't do anything, and then they walk out. And obviously we're in the show. I can't close it. I can't close the door. But for some reason they really wanted to be part of the festivities today. But I even forgot the question because I'm Lafreniere obsessed.
I know Art's next cat's going to be named Lafreniere. I'm telling you guys right now. I'm calling it.
That would be great. Well, one of my first cats, and I've told this story before, was named after Sergei Fedorov. Sergei, a legendary cat, lived till he was 18. God bless him. But Fedorov always used to ask me, but Sergei had that habit of talking in the third person. Sergei do this, Sergei feel this way. So he would always come up to me, go, Art, how's Sergei today? And I go, I don't know. I just walked in. How are you doing? He goes, the cat, idiot, the cat. How's the cat doing?
What does Laffy
Sergei?
Is it Laffy? Is that what Joe called him? Is that what Joe Valeno called him? Laffy? Maybe that could be your next cat's name.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, he did. He does have a. He does. I would be very. I'm going to send out a personal message to Joe Valeno right now.
Oh no!
You better vote for me over Craig Monroe, buddy, because I voted for you over me. So let's keep it together.
We have those full results.
Oh no!
Okay, so as Art alluded to, Art, I'm so sorry. But I do have bad news for you. Craig Monroe beat you out in the Fest Bowl. I'm sorry, you're 0 for 2. I still think you look great, but Craig Monroe stole the show. So again, you're
35%. But you're bad.
One of my
it really isn't. I mean, when you're going up against Craig Monroe, that's not that bad.
Yeah, look who I've had to go up against. I mean, Craig Monroe and then Joe Valeno. Let me go up. Let me go up against Ken Cal or Double D. I mean, give me somebody that's
calling them out.
You know what?
Fighting words. Those are fighting words.
I always joke around because Ken and I are exactly the same age. But I always tell Ken I grew up idolizing him. Which is. Which always makes him laugh. But hey, you know what? Craig Monroe should have won. Joe Valeno should have won. But the next time, doggone it, I'm going to win. I'm going to campaign for it, whatever that may be.
Love it. Well, it keeps you humble. It keeps you humble, Art. right, and last but not least, we want to give a shout out to Hank on Facebook. You guys remember Hank? He completely deconstructed his washing machine because he couldn't find his favorite Red Wing socks at the beginning of quarantine. So we are happy to report that Hank did in fact find his sock. So shout out to you, Hank. Glad you found it. It must be a lucky sock or a magical sock. I don't know. It's a Red Wings one, so we're very happy you found it.
The other thing too, it looked like his washer or dryer, whichever it was put back together. So that's the other good news.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the good news. I know the last picture we had, it was like every single like nut and bolt was placed out on his garage floor. So that must have been a long task, but I'm glad it's back together.
Well, he must be a big IKEA guy because, putting stuff together, if he put that thing back together, I mean, it was dissected. It was all over the place, but more power to him. That's great.
Carly, I
love it. Thank you guys so much.
Wait, I have a question for you too. Yes. So earlier in the show, you and Ken Kale were on and you guys were talking about your esports face-off, your Chell face-off that's happening tomorrow. Yeah. Why don't you talk about it a little more and remind our viewers how they can tune in?
Okay. Well, Ken and I, once again, we kind of played every single job that had to do with this whole entire game simulation. So we were the general managers, we're the broadcasters, we're on the first line. And it doesn't get much better than that. So we go head to head. We drafted our teams, and I got Steve Yzerman. He got Gordie Howe. We have incredible lineups. So you guys make sure you tune in to see Ken and I go head to head in the NHL 20 Gaming Challenge presented by EA Sports. It's going to be fantastic. 2 p.m. tomorrow, streamed on Facebook and Twitch, but you guys can watch it after as well.
Well, I will definitely be tuning in. I made my pick, which was Ken Kale. Sorry, Carly. Your team is really good, though. I think this is going to be a really head-to-head, close match. Art, who do you think is going to win?
Art, pick me.
Well, I do. I'm going to go with Carly because of Bob Probert, and I think after my Lafreniere love and picking Dylan Speed, I know Anthony Mantha is going to have a big game for Carly's team. He's gonna be all fired up. So I'm gonna pick Carly's team. Yes, he will. He will perform well.
Awesome. If not, well, that's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Everybody, 2 p.m. Carly and Ken. So make sure you're tuning into that. And Carly, thank you so much. Great stuff for the Let's Socialize segment, and a big thank you to our friends at AAA as well. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And Art, we have come to that time again. It's the end of another Word on Woodward, and great show today, Art. You were great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I was just having a lot of fun. I can't believe how obsessed I am with Alexis Lafreniere, but probably so much that if he's watching. Well, now I just call him Steve. But Steve Yzerman, I know it's a drinking game, so Steve Yzerman, kick off the weekend early, everyone. Do your shots right now.
Hold on.
Here we go. What a great time, Steve Yzerman. But anyway, with that said, I'm really I think if Alexis Lafreniere is watching, and I'm pretty sure he is, that I just want to let him know you would be beloved in Detroit, but I don't want to scare you off either. So best of luck to you. I'm just looking forward to seeing you in the league and being a player, as I said earlier.
And as I said, Art, as soon as we sign off here in a couple minutes, I'll make those calls for you and see what I can do about getting him in Detroit, okay?
Daniela, great. You know what? You're going to make it happen. All the credit goes to you. I know
all
Steve
right.
and Drapes and all those other guys, hey, sorry. You're going to be, if that happens, you're going to be able to announce the pick. That's a stipulation.
Right.
I would call Steve on the phone and say, listen, Yzerman, okay, Lafreniere, it's in the bag. You got him. But I need to announce the pick.
I love it. I love it. Well, I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. And to add to the fun you're going to have this weekend, you can watch some classic Tigers games on Fox Sports Detroit. And before that, though, you've got to play Hockeytown Trivia, which is today at 2 p.m. So right after we sign off here. And there's a twist to this Hockeytown Trivia today. It's actually movie trivia. So we're going to test your movie knowledge and go away from some hockey trivia. So Art, I'm allowing you to play this one. You're not allowed to play the Red Wings trivia, but you can play the movie trivia if you'd like.
All right, I'm getting ready. I'm all set. I'll answer
All
every
right, good.
question right.
All right, Art. Sounds great. It's been a great show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We've got some exciting guests lined up for next week as well. So make sure you're tuning in Tuesday and Thursday at noon. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on Tuesday.